So, should we be concerned about Devin Vassell and his recent injury that's keeping him out of action?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs and Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Cans 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you all back. Happy work day, guys, on this fine Wednesday. And we hope you're having a productive day, keeping safe, and getting ready for the new season. Can you believe the off-season is over? Training camp has started. Media days come and gone. So many things happening. Yeah, good thing you're coming here to Locked On Spurs, your first and only stop for all things silver and black. Subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcast. iTunes, Spotify, Cans 5, YouTube. You know where to go. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you will get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What are we talking about today? We're going to be taking a look at Devin Vassell and his injury. It is keeping him out of action for the start of the regular season. Should we be concerned? Is this a sign of, well, he might be injury prone? And is he still that complementary piece to Wemby that the Spurs are seeking? And then you get into some of your comments over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. So as y'all heard, Vassell will miss the start of the 2024-25 season due to this injury for a stress reaction on his right foot, third metatarsal head from last season. This is where we need to get in Dr. Ryan McCorkle. He needs to come back and explain what's going on. But nevertheless, that is what's keeping him out of action. Now, the team does report that they're projecting a November 1 evaluation/return. We'll see how he responds. He is doing non-contract drills during training camp. But, he is out to start the season. Should we be kind of biting our nails wondering if this is going to be the Devin Vassell moving forward? Your 65, 68 game Devin Vassell, and that's it. Who is helping me to discuss this and more? He is back, everybody, after a long hiatus. A big-timey me. He is Michael Jimenez. Make sure to follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. He is the co-host of the Alamo City Sportscast on YouTube. He'll brag about that. Jimenez, thank you for gracing us with your appearance. I've been chasing you to come on Locked On Spurs for quite some time.
Oh, I know. It's been a while, but I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm glad you're back. By the way, everybody, sorry for audio only. Jimenez had some major tech issues, so we could not get the video going. But, hey, you're here for all the hot takes from Jimenez, including how Taco Palenque's poor food and San Antonio's poor, and what else? Vassell's effective field goal percentage is trash. The list goes on and on, Jimenez. But you can get all that on your side of things at the Alamo City Sportscast. Is that right, Jimenez?
Yeah, not Vassell. It's Sohan's .483. I have that etched in my mind, in my memory forever.
There you go. All right. So, again, Jimenez is going to be helping me tackle the Devin Vassell situation. Now, Jimenez, you heard in the intro right now, Devin Vassell is out, during training camp. I'm sorry, I should say media day. He spoke, very positive. He talked about how, it was just a re-aggravation, that the injury that he suffered last season didn't really properly heal. They went to did some cleanup, and he feels that he'll be better and stronger once he gets back to the court. Let's go and play a little soundbite from Vassell. Here's what Vassell had to say.
I was hoping that it was supposed to heal how it was supposed to, and it just didn't heal how it was supposed to. So, just needed to have surgery to clean it up, so I'd be 100%. And now I'm striding to. I feel better now than I felt pretty much at the end of the season. So that's a good thing. No, it just didn't heal how it was supposed to heal, and at the end of the day, it was just nagging. So I just needed it to be gone.
There you go, Jimenez. You heard what Devin had to say. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, what is your reaction to the latest injury news regarding Mr. Devin Vassell?
Here we go again. If it's not one thing, it's the other. That's the thing about Devin Vassell. He is one of my favorite Spurs players. In fact, I'd probably say that he is my favorite Spurs player. And it's a guy that averages, 20 points per game, a guy that can knock down threes at a career 38% clip. We need a guy like that on this team. We need a guy who's going to be playing lots of games and lots of minutes. The problem is that he misses games a lot. He misses 15, 20, 25 games a season. He had one season where he missed more than half the entire season. And it's not just one thing, man. It's not just one injury that keeps getting re-aggravated. Right now it's a foot. It's been a hamstring. It's been a quad. It's been a shoulder. It's been a back. It's been everything in between. I love Devin Vassell. There's not going to be any Devin Vassell slander coming from me. I love him on the court, but the fact is he is injury prone. We've been saying this for the longest time. He is injury prone. But when you hear the news at media day, kind of just came out of nowhere, right? Wait, what do you mean you had surgery? What do you mean they didn't heal properly? And when they say it's going to be reevaluated November 1, November 1 is usually the start of the season for most teams, but they moved it up to October 24th, right, for the Spurs. So he's going to miss some time, and then when he does come back, is it going to be properly healed? Are they going to slow him into things? Is he going to have to be in practice for a couple of weeks or travel with the team for a couple of weeks? There's a lot of questions that remain unanswered. And to me, I'd be surprised if he's on the court before December 1.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, there's a double-edged sword. You can say, man, he's getting hurt at 24 years old, but at the same time, you're like, well, he's 24-year-old. He should be able to bounce back fast. But yeah, it's just without him to start the season, it's going to be difficult. Now, look, we've talked about this plenty of times here on Locked On Spurs, but it bears repeating how if the Spurs are searching for that complementary piece to Wemby, and we know they have allegedly chasing Lauri Markkanen, Trae Young, those kind of players, all-star level players, maybe Vassell can be that, but again, everything hinges on his health. Now, February of last season, Jimenez, he averaged a season high 22.5 points per game through 12 games. And in March, he recorded 20.2 points per game in 13 games played. He averaged about 26.7 points per game in the last 3 games he played before being shelved. That was the highest shooting average, 52% in the fourth period that he had during that stretch than anybody on the roster, including Wemby. Does that give you hope that maybe Vassell is that guy, or no, because of the injury situation?
No, because of the injuries. He's the ideal number 3 guy on a team. He's not the Robin to Wemby's Batman. He's the ideal number 3 guy. And the reason for that is because of the injuries. It's because of the inability to be on the court 70, 75 games. I want him to at least hit 70. Hit 70 and I'll be happy. But when it's 63, 65, in that range, and it's a different injury every time, I get concerned as a Spurs fan. The thing about it is this. Keep in mind, when he left the court, he was on fire, right? He was doing so well. You rattled off the stats. He was doing so well. Didn't result in a lot of wins. He goes out with an injury. Sohan goes out with an injury. Suddenly, Wemby takes off, and the Spurs started winning games. And they were competitive in games that they lost. It's so bizarre. I know that Vassell is talented. I know that he's a very, very good player, and he earns his money. But the fact of the matter is that I don't trust him as the number 2 to Wemby. I want him as the number 3.
Yeah, I still have hope that he is the number 2 guy. Yeah, I think this season he should take another step in the right direction, albeit number 1 should be staying healthy. But outside of that, I think he meshed well with Wemby late in the season. He's aware that he was getting that rhythm going with Wemby. But again, in order to see that happening, that pairing to come to life, he needs to stay on the court. Now, we talked about a little while ago, Spurs allegedly were chasing reportedly Markkanen and Trae Young and all those big names. What would it take for you to say, you know what, Spurs, he is that guy. Don't be chasing Markkanen. Or on the flip, is Jimenez saying, you know what? Yeah, I don't care how good Vassell is or how healthy he is. You still search for that Markkanen type player. Hey, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. You want to go to FanDuel.com right now. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So much when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You just got to go to FanDuel.com right now. Speaking of FanDuel.com, look, the NBA season is also around the corner. Spurs fans, time to have some fun with your silver and black on the court. The app is very easy to get, very easy to use, user-friendly, very intuitive. Make your picks, 1, 2, 3. Bet on parlays, bet on win spreads, totals. I mean, seriously, you can have so much fun with sports this sports season with FanDuel. Again, America's #1 sports book. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Another reason why you got to go to FanDuel when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Go to FanDuel.com right now, America's #1 sportsbook.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Yeah, you still search. I mean, Vassell's a very, very, very good player. And, I oftentimes ask myself the question, how many teams would this particular player start for? Like, Wemby would start for all, teams in the NBA. And I think Vassell would start for more than half the teams in the NBA. He's a very, very good, solid player. So there's no Devin Vassell slander, rather. I like the way that he plays, but I don't think that he has that all-star ability to go alongside Wemby. I just think he's a very good player. Because if you want to have a superstar there, keep in mind, with Tim, he had all-stars in Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. All the greats have a complementary all-star. I don't see all-star when I see Devin Vassell play. I see a very, very good player who can be a very good, solid player for a good team, but I don't see an all-star.
Yeah, I look at his numbers and I see how valuable he is for this team. Looking at last season, I don't think this gets highlighted enough. His turnover percentage is pretty low. 8.9% of the time he'll turn the ball over. Now you're thinking like, what? 8.9%. But that ranks him in the 82nd percentile among players at his position. In other words, he takes care of the ball pretty well compared to other players at that shooting guard, swing guard position. Now, good facilitator, 19.2% of the time. He's the facilitating. Spurs players make their shots. And the usage rate shot up. He's now at, it took a little bit of a dip, but then again, that's because of Wemby, but still 23% usage rate last season. That tells me, Jimenez, the Spurs are kind of all in on Devin Vassell. But something tells me that you Spurs fans would be okay if he's packing his bags. What kind of return would you want for a Devin Vassell? Would you be okay with throwing him in a package for marketing? What if it's not marketing? What if it's just another big to pair with Wemby? What would it take for you, Jimenez, GM of the Spurs, to say, you know what, team that I'm making a deal with, I need this for Devin Vassell?
It would have to be an all-star or a fringe all-star, most definitely. Because Vassell, like I said, 38% shooter from three.
Yeah.
He does a lot of different things on the court. He's a smart, cerebral player. He has high basketball IQ. You would need to have somebody there that you think could excel into an all-star type of player. Lauri Markkanen has, one all-star appearance in his career?
Yeah, well, one, yeah.
So that might be the type of player to go with. If you're trying to improve by getting a Trae Young type of player, and you need to match salaries or whatever the case may be, then I would do it for a player like that. It has to be an all-star or a fringe all-star in order to get rid of Devin Vassell. Because if not, then why get rid of him in the first place?
We're talking with Michael Jimenez. Make sure to follow my next at MJ Acquired Taste, co-host of the Alamo City Sportscast on YouTube. More on that in just a few minutes. We're talking about Devin Vassell and his injury that's keeping him out until, what the Spurs say, November 1 / reevaluation, possible return. But, sure, we'll get into the positives of it, just a few seconds. Yeah, there are some positives with Devin Vassell being out, everybody. But the downside, too, aside for just him being out and the Spurs are losing out on a double-figure score to start the season, there's also this. He'll be, trying to get into game shape. He's a little bit behind the rest of the team. Meshing with Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes for regular season games, he'll be a little bit behind the 8 ball there. As well as this, what if just the Spurs, without him, they fall 2-8, 3-9 to start the season, all because they're missing that secondary option they currently have with Vassell. And in a loaded West, Jimenez, that could be issues for the Spurs long term as the season progresses.
Oh, that's game, set, match. You need 46 wins or so to make it into the play-in tournament to begin with. Spurs are projected, according to Vegas, to have 36 wins or so. So, you start the season 2-8, all of a sudden you got to win, 65% of your games to make the play-in tournament, much less even the playoffs. it can be the season could be over effectively, by the end of Thanksgiving, right around there. So the one thing that I am looking forward to, though, is who's going to replace Devin Vassell in the starting lineup, because I'm looking at the depth chart on ESPN.com, and they have Stephon Castle, the Spurs' 4th overall pick in the draft this year in the first round, as the backup to Devin Vassell. Do the Spurs do that? Do they trot him out and start his very first game? Pop was able to throw Wemby out there to the Wolves, right? His number 1 overall pick. He did the same thing with Jeremy Sohan. Back in the day, that wasn't the case. When the Spurs were drafting Keldon, when the Spurs were drafting DeJounte and Derek White and players like that, they would go to Austin and they'd have time to simmer and all that stuff. But not anymore. Spurs are playing their top draft picks. I was expecting Stephon Castle to play big-time minutes anyway. I was saying, okay, he'll probably go out there and get 24 to 26 minutes of run. But now he might be forced to play 30 minutes of run, because who else is back there? Is it going to be Malachi Branham? Is it going to be Sidy Cissoko? Is it going to be, Keldon Johnson playing the 2? The one that is the size and has the versatility to go out there and actually replace Devin Vassell in the lineup right now has to be Stephon Castle. And we get to see him right away. That's going to be so much fun. I hope that Castle's the guy to start the first week of the season.
Another guy that could take advantage of it too is Sidy Cissoko. The Spurs really haven't given him much burn as far as in the San Antonio uniform, the garbage time last season. But his name was mentioned during media day, where Pop did talk well about Sidy, but also said he still needs some more development, some maturity. I don't know if he meant by on the game or just personally, but nevertheless, maturity, the word was used. So there's an opportunity for Sidy to get some burn. But you're right. I think ultimately it will come down to Castle and maybe Keldon Johnson to start the season without Vassell. Who knows? Pop may tinker with that. Maybe, still keep Keldon off the bench and just let Castle get that burn. Ultimately, I think I would like to see Castle get the burn for sure. So he's a number 4 pick. He's a top 10 player in the draft. Get him out there. Let's see what he can do. The Spurs, sure, they're probably not going to get 20 points per game out of Castle to start, but you cannot deny that defensive end and what he can bring. Dare I say even better than Devin Vassell?
Which is crazy, because Devin Vassell, when he was at Florida State, was known as a lockdown defender. He comes to the NBA, and maybe it's because the Spurs needed him to do so much on the offensive side of the ball, but he lost some of that skill set when it came to defending the perimeter. And now Keldon Johnson, Stephon Castle going out there and potentially starting. What if Stephon Castle balls out? What if he goes out there and gets 20 points per game? What if he goes out there and shows that he belongs to be in the starting lineup? It's a good problem to have, but then what next? Do you put him back on the bench as the 6th man? It's kind of crazy when you look at it, because we see this in sports happen all the time. Somebody goes down with an injury, replacement comes in, especially if they're a young guy, comes in, and they do so well that it's hard to take them out of the starting lineup. What if the Spurs are winning with Stephon Castle in the lineup there with Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes and Sohan and Wemby? What if that's the winning combination? Spurs didn't start winning last year until when? Until Vassell got hurt.
Yeah.
So it might be a situation where Devin Vassell is just a really good player who doesn't mesh well with what they're doing with the lineup. That's a very distinct possibility. But I'm excited to see what Stephon Castle can do. I think that keep in mind, the Spurs didn't play Keldon Johnson or Derek White or DeJounte until Pop's hand was forced with an injury. It looks like they're going to force that hand again and play Stephon Castle right away.
Yeah. Last season, Devin Vassell, he had 36 20-plus scoring nights, and is only one of 5 Spurs in team history with multiple outings of 5+ three-pointers in his first 100 career games. So he's a potent guy on the offensive end, but defensively too, he's okay. He's not horrible. He's all right, but you're right that he's not the Devin Vassell from Florida State defensive end that we see. Now that could be a byproduct of just the NBA and how its defense is not really focused on. It's more offense. But again, his value to the team, why the Spurs will miss him due to injury, even looking at things like foul percentage, how often does he cause a foul? 1.3% of the time when he's on the court, he'll commit a foul. That's good for the 99th percentile among players at his position. 99%. He plays a
That's
smart
amazing.
game. He is a very high basketball IQ. So they're just gonna miss him. And look, the good news is he's not gonna be out for long. He seems very upbeat. He wasn't down, and during media day, there was no hemming and hawing, and oh well, what was me? There was none of that. He even said he's gonna come back better than ever. He's gonna leave it at that. But overall, the Spurs, Jimenez, I think they'll also be able to survive Devin Vassell's absence because they're kind of deep at that spot. We mentioned Castle, we mentioned Sissoko, there's Keldon. They got maybe Ingram, the rookie, gets some burn. So I think they'll be okay. It could be kind of like replace Devin by committee to start the season, huh? Hey, I want to talk to you about Game Time. Go to gametime.co right now. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. Make getting tickets easier for your favorite live events that much better. Game Time filters out the fluff, so you only get incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. Hey, Game Time has it all. They have the super deal. They got seats view before you buy. They got curated deals to make it easier to find the best price on great seats, the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. You will be pleasantly surprised with this app. Go get it right now. Game Time Picks, again, that's a curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater. Hey, they have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time.
Potentially. I mean, I can see that. Like you mentioned, Pop wants to see a little bit of everybody from City to Castle to everybody else. So it might be done by committee, but man, we have the number 4 overall pick in the draft. I don't care if this is a weak draft or not. That's the number 4 player that was taken. We got to see what we have in him, and So that's what I want to see. I want to see Castle go out there and play 30 minutes and take that spot. I mean, as much as I love City Sissoko, and I think he's done a fantastic job in Austin, he was a second rounder. Mm-hmm. He wasn't picked 4. I think he was picked closer to 44. Mm-hmm. So the Spurs need to focus more on their A-level talent as opposed to the ones that are the flyers. And
he is Michael Jimenez. Oh, sorry about that, Jimenez. Go ahead and finish up your
thought. I was just basically saying, there's a reason why Sohan got run. There's a reason why certain players got run because they were drafted early. Vassell, they were drafted up at the top of the draft for a reason, and it wasn't to sit behind, somebody that came into the G League the year before.
He is Michael Jimenez. Make sure to follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. Let us know what you think about Devin Vassell being out to start the season. Are you worried about his injury pattern here? Or are you there already saying, yeah, this is a conversation that we're going to have more often than not with Devin Vassell in Spurs colors? And Michael know, MJ Acquired Taste on X. Let me know at Jeff G Spurs Zone and subscribe to Locked On Spurs. And speaking of Locked On Spurs, it's been a while, so we had some fan comments, at least a little segment about it. Let's dive into it. We love hearing what you guys are leaving at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the fans are talking about Jimenez. All right. The first comment, speaking of Castle, is from Fred Lentz, RM7CW. He says, yes, you should start him. I know you did not pick him to be on the bench all season long. He's referring to Stephon Castle. So we have a fan here that's pretty much saying, Jimenez, yeah, you roll the dice with Castle. You throw him out there in a starting role. Now, obviously, this was left before the Devin Vassell injury. So taking away that, do you think Castle should start on opening night, whether or not the injury news to Devin Vassell hit or not?
Well, no. If Vassell was out there as a starter and Vassell was healthy, I would want Castle more than likely to be the 6th man for the start of the season, just simply because of how the roster looks. But if Vassell's not out there, I'll be highly disappointed if Pop doesn't start him. And, Castle is somebody that, went to UConn, had tremendous success over there. And Pop mentioned that. Brian Wright also mentioned that during draft night. They were like, hey, we like this guy because not only is he a talented player, but because he played big-time basketball under the big-time lights, under the big-time, in front of big-time crowds. So when I look at Castle, he's ready to go. He's ready to go. Just give him an opportunity. He doesn't have to. You didn't draft him number 4 overall to ride the pine. I agree with your listener there.
Yeah, I agree with him too. Look, if you're going to give anybody minutes, especially with Devin Vassell out in the starting role, it's got to be Castle. I think his defense alone is going to merit it. I think Pop's going to fall in love with his defense when the ball goes up in the air to start either preseason or training camp. So, yeah, I think it could be Castle's to lose unless he's just really needs a learning curve when it comes to the NBA level. We're talking about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans, and the comments you're leaving over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Go ahead and leave a comment there at youtube.com/Locked On Spurs. All right, we'll keep with the theme here with Devin Vassell and his injury. The next one is from Connor McLeod, 1490. He says, trade him. His health is a major concern. Are we there yet, Jimenez? Are we there yet to say, you know what? Put him on the trading block now because Mr. Vassell is too fragile. The health issue. What do you think?
Oh, don't do this to me because I am a Vassell fan. There's certain players that I love and some certain players I question, but Vassell's talent has never been questioned by me. But if he is somebody who's out there just giving us 55 to 60 games per season, if he misses 20 games this year, you got to see what you can get for him. You really can, because does it get better as you get older? I mean, you mentioned he's 24, he's young, he can heal, but does it actually get better once you get to 26, 27? He's young now, but he won't be young forever. I'd say that if he misses 20 plus games, you got to see what's out there.
Yeah, and then plus two, the value of Devin Vassell will plummet if that's true. All players when they're traded, they go through medical screenings first. Remember the Sean Elliott Pistons Rockets trade that got nixed because Sean Elliott had that health issue. Same thing could come here. Perhaps instead of quarters on the dollar, you'll get pennies on the dollar for Devin Vassell. But no, I'm not there yet, Connor. I'm not going to say trade him. I don't know if I'm there yet to say his health is a major concern. I think his health is just something to keep an eye on moving forward. So we'll see how he rebounds coming back on that November 1 target. Jimenez thinks that he ain't coming back till December. We'll see. I'm not there yet, Jimenez.
Then we'll be on the coop. We'll be tanking for Cooper Flag at that point.
Oh man, another tank season. Can you imagine? After going at 22, look. It's not like Vegas has the Spurs winning 40 or more. They got 36 and a half. So it's not like it's going to be a fun season, regardless. But
Spurs start 2-10. Let's just call it a season, man. Let's just start tanking at that point. I'm cheering for wins and playoffs.
Yeah,
wins and playoffs is what I want. But we start really, really bad. 2-12, 3-15. Let's just call it a season.
Yeah, and look, that was a common thread during media day was wins and playoffs. That's all everybody kept on talking about, wins and playoffs. We've been through this road before. We heard this before in the recent rebuild. We'll see if that will come. I mean, Sohan even told me, he goes like, we're pushing for the playoff. Blake Wesley, who came on Locked On Spurs yesterday, said this team's going to be scary. So we'll see if the Spurs are not only going to walk the talk, and they're going to walk the walk. And that starts very, very soon. He is Michael Jimenez. Be sure to follow him on X at MJ Acquired Taste. Tell us about that YouTube show you got going on there.
Yeah, more than 1,000 subscribers this year. It's fantastic. We do sports, pop culture, nostalgia. Keep in mind, local sports talk radio goes dark between the hours of 10 and 2, because there's, Sports Star and Ticket 760. They go to national broadcasting at that point. So we kind of fill in the gaps. We go on from 10 to about 11:30, Monday through Friday. You can subscribe to the Alamo City Sportscast on YouTube. We're also available on Spotify as well. You can follow me on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste. We talk a lot of Spurs, a lot of Cowboys, Texans, UT football, a lot of boxing, pop culture, music, movies, restaurants. And man, I didn't diss Taco Palenque that bad. I like Palenque, man.
Yes, you did. For those that have not heard, yesterday the Spurs announced that Taco Palenque is a Mexican fast food restaurant in San Antonio. For those who don't live here, is an official or fresh max food spot for the Spurs, but Jimenez bagged on it, saying it poor people food. Man, he said poor people food.
City. It came from a poor city. Two different things. Why you got to put words in my mouth?
Because it's fun.
Dude, half the things that you say about me on Twitter are so exaggerated or embellished. It is so funny. Sometimes outright lies, and you do that for me to get bagged on and ragged on over at the on X. It's funny.
But it brings you views to your show, though.
Does it?
It does, definitely does. Make sure to follow Jimenez on X at MJ Acquired Taste and his show on YouTube, the Alamo City Sportscast, and subscribe to that as well. Get them numbers up for them guys there. He and Joe, they do a good job every single day. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kensfy, Plus app, YouTube. Make sure to check out the Locked On NBA podcast in general, from Locked On Celtics, Locked On Bulls, Locked On Rockets. The list goes on and on. Check out what's going on in the rest of the NBA world at the Locked On Podcast Network. So for Mike Jimenez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.